Hi, welcome to another First Chapter Friday with Green High School Library. This week, the book is Please Don't Feed the Mayor, based on a true story, sort of, by Sue Pethick. Chapter 1. Melanie MacDonald woke that morning with a start. Maybe it was a bad dream that had caused it, or just the mysterious workings of her subconscious, but the second she opened her eyes, a terrible certainty clutched at her heart. Fawcett, the town she loved best in all the world, was dying. Blinking back tears, her heart pounding, she groped toward the foot of the bed where her border collie, Shep, was sleeping. As he lifted his head and nuzzled her hand, Melanie took a deep breath and felt the constriction in her chest begin to ease. "We can't let it happen, boy," she whispered. "We've got to find a way to save this place." A glance at the clock told her that she'd beaten the alarm by 20 minutes, something Melanie would ordinarily have spent on some extra shut-eye. But a sleep would be impossible now. Better to get up than to lie there in the darkness and fret, she thought. Plus, it would give her time to think before she headed into work. There was still time to save her little town, she told herself. The only question was, how? The brisk October air made her face tingle as she opened the back door for Shep. It was her favorite time of year. A period of growing anticipation between the invigorating heat of summer and the first snowfall. Songbirds were emptying her feeders as fast as she could fill them, and in spite of Shep's best efforts, the squirrels had already buried an orchard's worth of nuts in her backyard. Down in the river, the last of the late-season chinook were racing upstream, and the pumpkins she'd planted in July would be jack-o'-lanterns before long. If only other people could see the town the way she did, Melanie thought as she headed back inside. Fawcett's problems would be over. Shep continued to romp in the backyard while Melanie made breakfast. She stood at the kitchen window, watching him zigzag across the lawn, guiding his soccer ball around a stile and into an upturned orange crate. The border collie's previous owners had given him away when he refused to stop herding their small children around like sheep, and she'd made it a priority to channel those instincts towards something less objectionable. Much as she enjoyed having him with her at work, Melanie knew that being inside all day was hard on a working dog, and letting him tire himself out a bit first made life at the coffee shop easier for everyone. When her toast came up, Melanie sat down at the table and began racking her brain once again for ways to save Fawcett from extinction. The town's troubles weren't news to anyone. Its residents had already spent time and money trying to improve its fading prospects. The old Fawcett house, a Victorian mansion built for a railroad baron's mistress, had been remodeled into a bed and breakfast. Money had been raised to modernize the school, and Main Street had undergone a complete overhaul with fountains, bubblers, and wrought iron benches for people to enjoy their shopping trips. But in spite of those improvements, folks were still moving away, and the future seemed bleaker than ever. If something drastic wasn't done, Fawcett would soon be nothing but a historical footnote. She hung her head and fought the urge to cry. Had moving back there been a mistake? It was so easy at times like that to start second-guessing herself. It wasn't just that she'd sunk her life savings into the coffee shop. She'd given up everything else, too. Friends, a good job, even her marriage had fallen to the wayside. Melanie had bet her entire future on making things work in her hometown. If they didn't, it wouldn't just mean that her business had failed. It would also mean she'd sacrificed everything for a foolish dream. She didn't think she could face that. Melanie looked up and frowned. Shep was pawing anxiously at the front door. He must have let himself in while she was brooding, she thought. But what on earth was he so worked up about? Then she glanced at her watch. Oh my gosh, look at the time! She grabbed her coat, and the two of them ran out the door. Ground Central was in the heart of Fawcett's downtown, one of a dwindling number of shops still thriving on Main Street. Even as other businesses closed, Melanie had managed to hang on, a fact she attributed to Shep. As the shop's official greeter, he made everyone who walked through the door feel welcome. Melanie turned on the television and started filling the two large coffee urns while Shep walked through the dining area, nudging chairs into place around the tables. The constant drone of entertainment news hadn't been part of her original plan when she'd opened Ground Central. She'd been picturing more of a quiet coffee bar like the ones they had in Portland and Seattle. But resistance on the part of Fawcett's populace and the need to meet her financial obligations had convinced her that compromise was necessary to her survival. As frustrating as it felt sometimes, she could at least console herself that Ground Central had achieved its main purpose, to become an informal neighborhood gathering place. The smell of coffee brewing filled the air as Melanie made a last pass through the shop, refilling stir sticks and sweetener packets, while Shep waited patiently for Walt Gunderson to arrive. Walt was the owner of Gunderson's, the grocery/hardware/feed store that had been the heart and soul of Fawcett for 5 generations, and his wife, May, made the baked goods that Melanie sold in her shop. Walt had been both mentor and father figure to her.
Just a reminder, we have